You hear the news break, and it feels almost surreal. James Marsden, Cyclops himself, is officially returning in Avengers: Doomsday. You remember the first time you saw him don that ruby-quartz visor in the early 2000s, leading the X-Men with that stoic presence. It wasn't just another superhero role. It became one of the defining portrayals in modern comic book films. For years, you watched the MCU grow without him, hearing whispers, rumors, and fan theories about when the X-Men would finally step into this interconnected universe. And now, here it is. Not a reboot, not a cameo, but Marsden himself stepping back into the role that made him a household name. The timing feels deliberate. Marvel is deep into the multiverse saga, pulling together characters from every corner of its cinematic history. You imagine the energy on set when Marsden walked in, meeting actors like Chris Hemsworth, Anthony Mackie, and Tom Hiddleston, faces from an entirely different branch of the superhero world. It's not just a casting choice, it's a statement. The X-Men aren't coming in quietly. They're arriving alongside Avengers, Wakandans, and the Fantastic Four, facing an enemy that could end worlds. Marsden has been open about what this return means to him. He calls it a homecoming, a chance to revisit a character who helped shape his career. You picture him saying it with that mix of humility and excitement, maybe even a hint of disbelief that after 2 decades, he's slipping back into Cyclops' boots. You can almost hear the click of the visor locking into place, the low hum as the optic blasts charge. And just like that, the leader of the X-Men is back, not in a solo movie, but in the middle of Marvel's biggest battle yet. You watch the announcements roll out, and the cast list alone feels like an event. Alongside Marsden, you see names you didn't expect to share the same screen. Patrick Stewart is returning as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler. It's like a reunion of the original X-Men roster, only this time they're stepping into a Marvel cinematic universe that has already weathered alien invasions, time travel, and a snap that erased half the galaxy. You think about the weight these characters carry, heroes and villains with decades of history, both in comics and on film, finally intersecting with the Avengers you've been following for years. Then there's the twist you didn't see coming. Robert Downey Jr., the man who launched the MCU as Iron Man, now returning as Dr. Doom. The idea of Cyclops standing on the same battlefield as Doom sends your mind spinning. You imagine tense standoffs, alliances built out of necessity, and clashes where even heroes question each other's motives. With the Fantastic Four confirmed and Wakandan warriors in the mix, the scale of this movie feels unlike anything Marvel has attempted before. You think about Marsden on set, surrounded by this staggering ensemble. It's not the same world his Cyclops left behind. The battles are bigger, the enemies more dangerous, and the stakes spread across multiple realities. You picture him walking onto the battlefield, visor glowing, hearing Thor's voice rally the Avengers while Professor X issues calm, precise orders. The worlds are colliding, and Marsden's Cyclops is stepping right into the center of that storm. You know this isn't just a return, it's a collision course for every hero you've ever followed. You start piecing together how this version of Cyclops might even exist. In the original X-Men films, his story ended abruptly, a casualty of a shifting franchise. But in the MCU's multiverse, nothing stays buried for long. You imagine the moment, rifts tearing open in the sky, strange energy bleeding through, and from one of those portals, a familiar figure stepping out. The visor catches the light. The suit is slightly updated but unmistakable, and in an instant, the years without him vanish. He's here, but not from this earth. This Scott Summers carries the battles of another timeline, scars you may not see but can feel in the way he moves. The MCU's heroes may not know him, but they'll know his reputation fast. You can see him clashing with leaders like Sam Wilson's Captain America, debating strategy in the middle of chaos. Cyclops has always been methodical, disciplined, unwilling to gamble lives for glory. In a war against someone like Dr. Doom, that kind of leadership could be both a blessing and a friction point. You think about the possibilities. Thor questioning his restraint, Ant-Man cracking jokes that bounce off his serious demeanor, Wanda studying him with a cautious interest. Every interaction would carry the tension of 2 worlds trying to sync. Then there's the matter of Doom himself, a genius and a ruler, but also a manipulator. You wonder if Doom will see Cyclops as a threat worth eliminating early, or as a potential pawn in a larger plan. In a multiversal battlefield where trust is fleeting, the line between ally and enemy could shift without warning. For Marsden's Cyclops, the challenge isn't just surviving, It's proving he belongs in this new, tangled universe. You picture the scope of the battles he's about to face. This isn't just mutants against mutants, or heroes against a single enemy. It's an all-out collision of realities. The air thick with energy from collapsing timelines. The ground shaking under the weight of gods, sorcerers, and warriors fighting side by side. Cyclops thrives in strategy, and here, every move counts. You imagine him scanning the chaos, calling out coordinated strikes, directing both mutants and Avengers, as if he's been leading them for years. He doesn't have the luxury of earning their trust slowly. He has to command it instantly. In moments like this, you can see why Marvel chose to bring back Marsden. His Cyclops always carried that calm authority, even when emotions ran high. You remember how he balanced the weight of leadership with personal loss, never letting either define him completely. That same steadiness would cut through the noise of a battle where enemies shift forms, allies vanish through portals, and victory depends on decisions made in seconds. You can almost hear his voice over comms, steady and unshaken. Stay on target, eyes forward, we hold the line. But the multiverse doesn't just offer enemies, it tempts with second chances. You wonder if this Cyclops will see versions of people he's lost, faces from timelines where things ended differently. Will he allow himself to feel that pull, or will he shut it out to keep his focus on the mission? In a story this big, emotional distractions can be as dangerous as enemy fire. And for someone like Scott Summers, whose past is marked by sacrifice, the cost of hesitation could be catastrophic. You start to think about the quieter moments, the ones away from the explosions and collapsing cities. Cyclops has always been more than the visor and the optic blasts. He's the strategist who studies the board long before the first move. You can see him in a dimly lit war room, holographic maps of fractured universes floating in the air. Around him, the leaders of the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and Wakanda debate over the next step. His voice doesn't rise, it cuts through with precision. He lays out the probabilities, the risks, the sacrifices that will be required. Some will agree, others will call him too cautious. But you know he's not afraid of being unpopular if it means fewer casualties. You imagine him crossing paths with Doctor Strange, two tacticians from very different worlds, comparing notes on the flow of the multiverse. Strange might speak in riddles about destiny and inevitability, while Cyclops pushes for clear, actionable plans. And somewhere in that exchange, a mutual respect begins to form. Not because they see the universe the same way, but because they both understand the burden of making the hardest calls. Then there's the possibility of Marsden's Cyclops meeting characters who will test him in ways the X-Men never could. Someone like Loki, weaving in and out of alliances, could push every button Cyclops has when it comes to trust. Or Shuri, challenging his leadership with technology and ideas he's never encountered. Each interaction feels like a reminder. This isn't his team, this isn't his Earth. But for this fight, they're all he has. And for someone who's built his entire life around protecting his people, adapting to this new reality might be the biggest battle of all. You picture the first real confrontation between Cyclops and Doom, not in the chaos of open battle, but in the kind of moment where words can be just as dangerous as weapons. Doom isn't the kind of enemy who shouts threats. He dissects his opponents with precision, looking for cracks in their resolve. You imagine the two of them standing on opposite sides of a shattered chamber, the walls humming with unstable energy. Doom speaks of inevitability, of power beyond the reach of any hero. Cyclops doesn't flinch. He's faced tyrants before, Magneto, Apocalypse, even forces that threatened all of mutant kind, and he knows that the first victory is refusing to be intimidated. Doom might try a different angle, tempting him with visions of what could be changed. In a multiverse war, the past is never fully gone. Cyclops could see worlds where Jean Grey never died, where the X-Men never fractured, where every choice he regretted could be rewritten. For a moment, you can imagine the visor lowering, his eyes narrowing as he weighs the offer. Not because he believes doom, but because the idea of undoing all that loss is a wound that never really healed. But in the end, you know his answer. Cyclops doesn't make deals with men who play God. When the fight does come, it's brutal. Doom's sorcery twists the battlefield, bending physics, turning the air itself into a weapon. Cyclops adapts, using ricochet shots off broken metal, turning Doom's own traps into tactical advantages. It's not a victory yet. Doom doesn't lose easily, but it's a statement. This isn't a man who's going to break under pressure. If Doom thought the visor was just a symbol, he's about to learn it's a warning. You can see the final push unfolding, a battlefield that barely resembles the world it started in. Reality itself is tearing apart. Pieces of cities from different timelines colliding in the sky, gravity shifting without warning. The Avengers and X-Men fight shoulder to shoulder now, the lines between their worlds blurred beyond recognition. In the middle of it, Cyclops is everywhere, barking orders over comms, cutting through the smoke with pinpoint blasts, pulling fallen allies to their feet. Every movement feels like muscle memory, honed over decades of leading people through impossible odds. You notice the way others respond to him now. The hesitation from earlier is gone. Even the most seasoned Avengers are moving on his call, trusting his judgment without question. In a war where chaos is constant, his voice has become the one fixed point. You imagine Sam Wilson glancing over, giving the smallest nod, a silent acknowledgement from one leader to another. It's not friendship yet, but it's respect, and in a fight like this, that's worth more than any treaty. The climax is relentless. Doom's power surges, threatening to wipe entire realities from existence. Cyclops plants himself between the enemy and the last defense line, visor glowing with a steady red burn. There's no grand speech, no dramatic pause, just the certainty in his stance that this is where he belongs. You can almost feel the impact when the blast finally rips forward, cutting through Doom's attack and buying the seconds the others need to strike. When it's over, the battlefield is silent except for the wind. The war isn't truly won. Wars like this never are, but Cyclops stands there, visor dimming, shoulders squared. In a universe full of gods and legends, he's proven something simple and unshakable. Leaders aren't born in calm. They're forged in the moments when everything is falling apart, and they refuse to fall with it.